Greetings, the Astro 30 in front of an amplifier here. Welcome to part 12, the final frontier of this amplifier build project. Now, this video is going to be filmed over the course of, well, hopefully only the next few days, maybe a week at the most, because I'm still waiting on a power switch and some fuse holders from China in the post, so that's the only thing that's holding this up. But today I'm going to do all the audio signal path wiring before I start drinking any beer, and get this input selector hooked up and to the RCA sockets and its own switch, so I can select which audio input I want and the power, etc., and hook the thing up to the preamp's input, preamp out to the RCA socket, to the power amplifiers, to the headphone amplifier, and basically make sure that all the circuit boards in here agree with each other and there's no unusual noises when they're all hooked up. Speaking of this input selector, if you remember part 10 when I was building this, I said there is no schematic available for it. Well, I was wrong. There it is there. Tim Stanton from Jim's Audio sent me this in my email. I was going through it last night, and lo and behold, there's the schematic for it. It's basically exactly as I described it and showed on the whiteboard. Nothing really all that different with it. So, but yes, there is a schematic for it. So, and out of respect, I'm not going to link this in the description or anything. What's the point? It's pretty basic. Okay, so in this part I'm going to do all the audio wiring and the power wiring, and then will get on to drilling this panel, and I might have to change this treble wire yet, I don't know. It is kind of stretching it at that end a little, but that's alright. I won't do the drilling today, I'll do that another day, probably Monday, so we can start getting the front panel all squared away. And the only thing with that input selector I'm not going to do is the LED wiring. I'll leave that till I've drilled the front panel. Anyway, I'm going to get to that. I don't want to spend any more than about an hour, maybe an hour and a half at the max on doing this part, and I'll come back. Okay, and all the signal wiring is done. Got some capacitors soldered across those input wires. Yeah, looks a bit how you're doing, but it works. Those bloody terminal headers are a piece of crap. Wouldn't accept the thin gauge of the wire for the audio cable there, and it just kept on slipping out the hole and was annoying me. So I needed to connect the preamps out to the power amplifiers and also to the headphone amplifier over there. So I just double joined the wires together there, and yeah, that'll fix that problem. I still need to connect the preamp output, so I might make use of that connector down there. That's next to the blue terminal. That's also an audio output, so that'll solve that problem. Got it hooked into the power amplifiers. You'll notice there's only just the red and the white wires going into the signal input. The earths are not used. There's no real need to use the earths, because at the end of the day it's all earthed anyway. I have the selector switch on here, however I have wired, well, the switch is wired correctly, but I wired each input wire back to front to the relays here. So channel 1's actually over here, and now it's over here when it's selected on here to channel 1. So in actual fact it's working in reverse, so rather than reverse all this crap up here, I'll just reverse the wiring later on the back of this switch. But right now I'm going to test it. I still haven't hooked up the speaker outputs yet. I'll do that at a later stage. It's taken me at least 2.5 hours now just to do that wiring, so I can't be bothered anymore. So I'm going to just test to see whether or not what I've got so far is working. Okay, making sure that the speaker leads are not shorting, because I still do not have the poly switches installed yet. So power it up. The relay engaged. I don't hear any noise out the speakers. I'll just increase the volume. I don't hear anything. Volume's up full. I do hear a hiss coming out the speaker. Turn it down, it goes away. Alright, just verify the other channel. Yep. Okay, so I'll leave that up about there. Now I'll do some switching. Well, the relays aren't working because I forgot to plug the lead back in. Now they will. I don't hear any pops through the speaker. I'll just turn it up full. No, I don't hear anything. So what's that? That's all the way anti-clockwise. So clockwise should be input 1. Which it won't be because I've got it backwards, haven't I? So that should be input 1. So I'll hook up an audio cable to input 1 and see if I've got any blurt. Actually, it might be wired right. Fully clockwise, aren't I? Actually, no, I have got it wired right. So having that reversed around like that, the back is correct. I thought it was wrong. But I've got sound. Of course, these cables are backwards. Just use that one. That input is working. I'm sure I've got that right. Fully clockwise is that way, yeah, no, that's working. Okay, next one. That one's working. And that one's working. Okay, so I need to hook up a audio source, and this time I'm going to use a CD player. I went out and bought myself a 5 metre long RCA to RCA lead. That's perfect for reaching for where the CD player is across the other side of the room to the amplifier. So, yep, time to hook it up. Okay, CD player is hooked up. Let's press play. See what happens. Sounds alright. Okay, I'll just pause that for a sec. I think that sounds alright. I'm just checking mainly for distortion, making sure that the input stage is not being overdriven, because I am now using a line level device such as a CD player, so this is a good test. So I'm going to go to the next track and just listen for distortion, really. That's not really telling me anything. Next track. That does. Okay, the headphones hooked up. I'm just going to repeat that last track again. It's actually a little bit quieter than the speakers. So that's alright. I'm not going to blow my ears off when wearing headphones. So now I might try a microphone across the speaker, just so you guys at home can hear what this amplifier approximately sounds like. Okay, I just played back that bit of audio I recorded with the microphone. It sounds alright through my editing speakers and stuff. So it does do the amplifier a little bit more justice. And I know this video is going on a lot longer than necessary, just testing and playing around with it. But I just wanted to make sure that everything's working properly and it's, you know, wired correctly. And that's getting mildly warm. It's not getting overly hot. Yeah, the biases are warm. Anyhow, now I can move on to doing, well, I suppose the next task would be to drill the front panel and mount all this stuff properly, and then move on to the mains wiring. But we're nearing completion. Okay, it's the next day and I thought it would be probably a good idea to hook up the brand new oscilloscope to the preamp and actually see what it looks like on the screen. Seeing as I've already got a CD player hooked up, I've got a CD of test tones burnt on it, 5-minute tracks each, including a 20Hz to 20 kHz sweep. This is another main reason I bought this oscilloscope, because it's got a large display on it. Alright, the green trace is measuring the input, the yellow trace is measuring the output before the volume control. As we can see, both sine waves are clean, they're not distorting, and our statistics saying the channel 1, which is the output, is 7.84 volt peak to peak at around 1 kilohertz, and the input on channel 2 is around 1.29 volt. So it's putting a little bit more input to the amplifier than what I tested it at, which is 1 volt. Let's go to the next track. Now this is a 440 Hz. Again, it still looks pretty clean. We've got 1.41 volt at the input now, and actually we should hear some difference with the bass. See, now it's clipping. Treble's not doing much. Okay, moving on to the next tone, which is 250 Hz. See the clipping? That was the bass control, mid control clipping a bit, treble control doing nothing. Okay, this is probably going to be ear piercing. I bet this is the higher frequency. No, it's an even lower frequency. We're at 100 Hz. Yeah, that's distorting. It's still performing pretty good though. I would adjust the time base, but I can't be bothered right now. Oh, that's a really high pitched sound. That's kind of unbearable. 1.2 in, 7.8 out at 10 kilohertz. Yeah, go away. This is the sweep. So what I'm interested in is the peak-to-peak output voltage and how stable it is. Now we can see that it's not exactly flat. Anyway, that's enough of that. So, all in all, yes, it's performing, because I was playing with the CD player last night and I did notice on a couple of tracks it was slightly distorting a bit. I don't know whether it was me, but I think that's because the placement of the volume control. It should never really be on the output. It may mean I may have to decrease the gain of the preamp a little, probably back to its original 4.5, and leave it at that. There's also, at lower levels, this volume control has a tracking issue that because of the way the carbon tracks are inside the pot, they're not even down the lower end. So the right channel drops out almost completely at a low level compared to the left. So it just means I probably have to lower the gain a little there and yeah, fiddle with it from there. But it's coming on. Now on to the next stage. Well, today I've received my new power switch. So that means that I can now wire up the main section and get rid of all this crap and do it properly. But that means first I'm going to have to drill the front panel. So that'll be today's little exercise. I've got some, I don't know what you call them, strap mounts for cable ties. One there, one there. This is the speaker wire output. See, I've left myself enough length here. So that's going to be wired to the back of this phone's socket, and the output of the power supply here will have the PTC's poly switches soldered at the socket with some wires. I did some experimentation with resistors at the input here, and I found by putting a 10k in series with the input that gives me just enough lower gain. It's about half less, and so the volume control's not all the way down the bottom to get nice low volume. You can bring it up a bit. But that means basically, instead of the 12k, it should have been 22k. So that was what originally was supposed to be in there. So that means I've got to pull those 12k's out and put 22s in its place. Because I believe the power amps operated at a gain of 34 from memory, so there's plenty of gain there anyway. So you don't want too much on the preamp. That was my bad. Anyhow, I'm going to get to drilling the front panel and then drilling the sub panel, and I'll show you what I meant in the previous video about using the front panel as a template. And yeah, size up all the holes and then start mounting, you know, pots and whatnot. Okay, so I started sticking my drilling template onto the panel, then I realised these controls are awfully closely spaced together, because this is the knob I'm going to be using. It's 20 mil by 22 or something. I'll measure it in a minute. But if we put it on top of the circle, we can see that doesn't leave a lot of room for the next one along to get your fingers on there and turn it. That's too narrowly spaced together. Volume looks alright where I had it, but... So here's a reprint, although I've made a mistake with the spacing here, but yeah, volume goes there. And now we have quite a significant amount of space between each pot, except these measurements are wrong. So I've reprinted it again, and there it is. I've chosen for 45mm between centres. It still gives us enough room, and the volume knob does not look crammed up against the treble knob, nor does it look crammed up against the LED indicators. Thing is, now that the position of the treble is there, I reckon that wire I've got on it is going to be long enough. So I need to go to the toilet. I've got to rip this back off and start again. Right, that's better. I had to take a shit. Anyhow, it's marked dead zone on the left and right hand edges respectively for a reason. This is where your handle is. So got to keep that in mind, that, well, where this line is actually direct center with the holes in the panel. So the handle would be sitting somewhere around about there. So that's where my input selector knob is. So that's right up close against that handle. So you don't want to go any further that way. So that's the reason why that dead zone is marked there, because there's nothing drilled on that side. Everything's drilled on the inside of those edges respectively. So there's all the pilot holes drilled. Again, there's nothing alignment critical here, as long as it looks horizontally and vertically centered. So now I can rip off my mask, or my template, to reveal the hole underneath. we go. So that's what the panel's going to look like. I've got to get rid of all that crap. Right, I've got the sub panel screwed on, tightened at each side there so it doesn't move backwards. Got the wires and components back out of the way there. Now all I've got to do is place the front panel on with the handles and stuff and tighten it up so that this panel doesn't move, because I've got to get this vertically centered with the case, and then we can go from there. Well, unfortunately the sub panel idea is not going to work because there's just not enough fucking room to get these stupid fucking things around these rails. These rails are just in the fucking way. So it's starting to fucking annoy the piss out of me. Why can't the fucking Chinese make something so fucking simple to do rather than make it fucking complicated? Ah, for fuck's sake. Because these holes don't even line up with these rails. They're too high up and too low down to each rail, so the rail interferes with the fucking head of the screw. Added to the fact everything's in the fucking way, I can't get an Allen key in there either end or what. I'm fucking cracking the shits. So I'm abandoning the fucking sub panel. I'm going to take the out. I'm going to move those rails back as far back as they go, and I'm just going to fucking just mount everything to the front panel, because I'm beyond the stage of caring right now. Alright, there's the front panel all drilled and the locator holes drilled. That one's not quite deburred correctly. Not the way I wanted to do it, but nothing on this project has been. Okay, so I'm going to clean off the front panel here of all the dust and crap. I'm going to try the electroset again. Don't hold out much luck. However, what I could do, thinking about it, is I could actually spray a coat of the varnish over the top of it first to make it, well, less rough. Because I've noticed that after I applied a coat of varnish to this one, it's now nice and smooth, texture there, and rough on the inside, so that may work a little bit better. Well, that doesn't look too bad. A little bit of that spray stuff helped with the transfer of the letters. That's great. Big, yes. I chose lowercase because it looks sexy. Some of the lettering didn't quite transfer properly, but it does add to the effect. It looks rustic, looks rugged, looks sexy. I've got the central location of the volume marking off. I used the L instead of in between the two. Same with the phones, I used the O instead of between the O and the N. But yeah, I'm not going to redo those. I mean, unless you've got OCD. I mean, yeah, okay, you can notice it, but unless you've got OCD, who cares? Okay, so now I'm going to spray some protectant coat on the top of this now and let that dry. Okay, so whilst I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to do some other stuff. I'm going to drill out these knobs to 6.35 millimeter. I went and bought a drill bit to that size, which is 1/4 inch. So first I need to remove the grub screw completely. I believe that's the right size. I'm hoping it's the right size. Yeah, it looks like it. Take the grub screw out, put it somewhere safe not to lose it. Okay, so I need to find out what the depth of that is. So I'm going to grab the 6mm drill bit, which I know fits in it. Okay, then I'm going to take a blue texter and just mark the edge of the drill bit. Right, so I can see that we're roughly about 15 centimeters. I mean 15 millimeters. Yeah, I would say at a maximum of 15. Okay. I also went out and bought myself a little drill press vise so I can actually place the knob. Well, I want to try and avoid scratching it as much as possible. that'll hold it reasonably square for me. Don't want to go too tight on that. Don't have to kill it, just hold it. Right, the clamp will hold the knob nice and flat and straight, and also grip it to stop it grabbing if the drill bit bites. So here we go. I do believe that because the sound of that drill bit changed, I have actually reached the bottom of the shaft. So that's as far as I'm going to drill it. Now to check to make sure it fits on a pot. So we have a pot here. Yep, fits on there nice and snug. So it's good that it's actually a tight fit. Yeah, that's perfect. And so once you do the grub screw up, it'll should pull itself straight. But yeah, I'll work on that. It is tight, but nothing wrong with being tight. Okay, I'm still waiting for the front panel to go off air dry. The knobs are all drilled out. I'm now moving on to wiring things like the LEDs to the cables, and I've used dark colours for the cathodes on each and lighter ones for the anodes. Now I've got this little test jig here, which is just a 10k resistor across the negative of the battery. I'm just going to check that each LED is working before I put plugs on the end of the lead. And if that's still in shot, yep, that one's working. So moving on to the next. So that one works. So this is the first one I did, because I've got to do 2 pin connectors on each. There's nothing worse than gluing these into the panel and they are not working. That one's functioning, so I can move on to the third one. This one here. And yep, that one's working. Nice. Next, or finally, but not least, this one. Yep, that one's working too. Great. So now I can put the plugs on the ends of these leads and then glue them to the inside of the panel. When the moonlight flits across your tits, oh Jesus Christ almighty. Anyway, I've got the connectors all wired on, all 4 of them. Now it's time to probably look at the front panel and glue them in. Dokie, grab an LED, pop him in my hole. Don't need much hot glue, just enough to hold the LED in place. Okay, and they are glued. Look how sexy that is, and it's relatively smooth. I suppose now I can put the selector switch in. A wire did break off of it, but I've resoldered it back on. So hopefully my alignment holes are correct. So I want to leave the little ring, I think there's a ring on this one, that acts as the stops for the switch, so that it can only rotate a certain distance. That has to stay on the inside. So I'm going to pop this in the hole, lined up perfectly. And voila, now I need to tighten it, but that's on now. So that's that part complete. Now I can think about marrying the panel up to the case, I've also got to wire up the power switch, but I'll do that outside the case. But it'd be a lot easier to screw this onto the front panel with the panel off. So I'm going to go about wiring the mains wiring in and out, plus the LED wiring, and then I'll pop it in the hole. Oh, well, the front panel was on. That was a lot more difficult than necessary, getting to those frickin' screws to do up with an Allen key. Awkward. Anyhow, I've got I haven't wired the mains part yet. I've just got the front panel on there, these pots in here loose because I still got to cut the shafts off. I'm just doing a preliminary test on these LEDs. I did find that one wasn't working properly because of a connector issue with this one, and so that was the yellow wire, of course, that was not working properly, wasn't crimped correctly, so I couldn't redo much else with it, so I just put a drop of solder on it and that fixed that. It's starting to look pretty sexy. Next thing to do would be to wire the mains up, so at least it can be powered off with its own switch. But for now I need to go out and get some cigarettes and some stuff, so I'm going to have a break from it for a while. Geez, those capacitors hold a charge for a long time. I've still yet to make the modification to the preamp and wire the output socket for the preamp out. Luckily that treble wire was long enough, heaps long enough. Yeah, what else? Got to wire in a connector for the power switch's LED, which is going to come off the preamp's LED section with another header pin. And a 100 ohm resistor, because that's only going across the 15 volt rail, positive 15 volt rail, so it doesn't go across both. So I only need like a, well, they've chosen 1K for the LED that they were going to put in there, so 100 ohm should be fine. But no, it's so nice to see it with a front panel on it now. I'm extremely happy. I think it's going to look even sexier with the knobs on. Okay, and I'm back. First thing I want to do before I start doing anything wiring wise is just work out how much of this shaft I've got to take off. Not a lot by the looks of things. As we can see there, looks like only to be no more than about 5 mil. About 4 mil. Okay, that's how much I've got to take off the end of that shaft. As for the volume knob, quite a considerable amount more. So I need to take off 6 mil. Okay, alright, I'm going to do it outside, and I've got a blanket in here to stop crap getting into the chassis. So before I completely lose the light, let's get cutting. Okay, that's one. That took a considerable amount of time than necessary, but let's see if the knob fits properly. Yes, it does. Okay, continuing on with the rest. Oh yeah, that looks absolutely sexy. See, nice. Well, disaster struck again. Some pads fell off the preamp as I was desoldering the resistors. This is why I can't have anything nice. Only joking. No, everything went well. I've made the modifications to the preamp and put in the connector headers for various connections. Now I'm just going to do a quick test to make sure that, well, the volume is now right, like the gain, and that all the pots still work and everything. There's still no mains wiring. The output wiring is still not done, so I'm using jumper leads. But I have actually wired up the LED to the power switch, so that should come on as soon as I plug it in. So, nothing shorting, plug it in. And it does, look at that. Look at how sexy that thing looks. Well, don't know if you heard it, but the relay did click in, so let's do have a buzz there, I don't know why. It's only when it's turned up. Anyhow, well, that doesn't sound right. Right at the moment. So let me fix up this connector at the back here. Alright, take two. For some reason the input of the op amp on that side was shorted to ground. Don't know why. Changed the op amp, problem went away. So let's try that again. Oh. Got a bit of buzz on the control there. I might have to earth that somehow. Now let's try that again. Now I've got both channels. The average low listening level's alright. This is about there. Okay, check the bass. Mid-range. Works. Yep. Seems to be working alright. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what happened to this op amp, but all I did was remove a couple of resistors and solder in a couple of sockets, so yeah, buggered if I know. Okay, I've got the headphone socket wired now. Only two more things to wire. That's the power switch and mains, plus the preamp output. So now I'm going to test to see whether or not the thing works with the headphone socket in. Got power. Got that. We have audio. I think it's coming out both channels. Plug the headphones in. And now I can hear it through headphones, not out the speakers. And now out the speakers. Yep, everything's working. Right, moving on. Okay, as messy as that looks, the mains wiring is done. So now it's coming off of its own plug. Now I can plug in an IEC plug into the socket. Plug it in, make sure that that's turned off, which it is. Plug it in. And contact. Now it's running off of its own power switch. Isn't that special? Okay, there is a slight buzz in the speakers when the volume's up full, but it's not as bad as that test amp. That wasn't there before, it's just miraculously materialised today. Might be a slight earth loop somewhere, but the thing is, it's working properly, it's sounding alright. Controls do what they're supposed to do. But that buzz is not very audible, not unless you got your ear right up to the speaker. Okay, that's enough of that. I've started drinking some alcohol, but the last thing to do before I put the covers on and call this complete is to wire the preamp outputs to the provided socket. I also have a mess out there to clean up later. Okay, that's all the wiring complete and tidied up. Now, I can't put the bottom cover on at least yet, because don't forget there's this screw thing sticking up which is going to come into contact with the chassis underneath, so I need to cut him off. Time to put out the lights. It be complete. Yes, it actually looks good in one piece. I'm actually quite happy with how that turned out, to be honest. So now for a final test. Okay. Lovely. Well, I think that deserves a celebratory drink. Anyway, I'm glad that you followed me along with this project. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. The Letraset actually sets the front panel off beautifully. If you've got any questions or queries, put them down in the comments below and I'll try to answer as many as I can. Overall, I'm pleased with the performance. Couldn't ask for anything better. It's quiet, it doesn't produce much hiss, and yeah, I'm happy. So anyway, I'm the Astro 30 and I thank you for watching this video, and as always you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. The links are in the description down below, and you can also support me on PayPal. The link is also in the description down below. Anyway, I'm the Astro 30 saying thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in a new video.